Pay attention to Jessica Palmer, 26 years old, walking through the automatic doors of Medicare Pharmacy at 6:47 p.m. on Thursday, March 9th, 2023. She's picking up her monthly prescription for anxiety medication. She smiles at the pharmacy technician behind the counter. She has no idea this will be the last prescription she ever fills. She has less than 12 hours to live. Because Marcus Webb, 34, the man handing her that white paper bag with her name on it, knows everything about her. He knows she lives alone in apartment 3B at Riverside Gardens. He knows she takes Ambien to sleep. He knows her work schedule. He knows her phone number. He knows she broke up with her boyfriend 6 weeks ago. He knows exactly when she'll be most vulnerable. And tonight, he's decided it's time to pay her a visit. This security footage from Medicare Pharmacy would become crucial evidence in a case that would expose how easily trusted medical professionals can weaponize the private information we give them. This is the story of a man who used his position to hunt women, and how one victim's disappearance revealed a pattern of predatory behavior that had been hiding in plain sight for over 2 years. Marcus Webb seemed like the ideal employee when he was hired at Medicare Pharmacy in January 2021. He had completed his pharmacy technician certification with top marks. His references from his previous pharmacy job in another state were glowing. He passed the background check. No criminal record. No red flags. He was quiet, efficient, detail-oriented. Customers liked him. He remembered their names. He asked about their families. He seemed genuinely concerned about their health. The pharmacists he worked under described him as reliable and professional. Marcus was always the first to volunteer for extra shifts, his supervisor would later tell investigators. He worked late nights without complaining. He was helpful to customers, especially elderly patients who needed assistance. But what no one knew was that Marcus Webb had been fired from his previous pharmacy position. The official record showed he'd resigned. The truth was different. A female coworker had complained that Marcus made her uncomfortable. He'd asked too many personal questions. He'd shown up at her apartment uninvited. The pharmacy chain had quietly let him go rather than document the incident properly. They'd given him a neutral reference to avoid legal complications. And Medicare Pharmacy, desperate to fill a position, had hired him without digging deeper. Marcus lived alone in a one-bedroom apartment near the pharmacy. He had no close friends, no romantic relationships. His coworkers knew almost nothing about his personal life. He went to work, went home, and disappeared into his apartment. But inside that apartment, Marcus was building something. A database, a collection, an obsession. On his personal laptop, investigators would later find a folder titled Research. Inside were detailed files on 47 women, all customers of Medicare Pharmacy, all between the ages of 22 and 35, all living alone. Each file contained the woman's full name, address, phone number, date of birth, medications, prescriptions filled, insurance information, work schedule patterns based on when they picked up prescriptions, relationship status gleaned from casual conversations, and photographs, some taken from social media, some taken through apartment windows. Marcus had been using his access to the pharmacy database to hunt for victims. He'd been studying these women for months, learning their routines, identifying vulnerabilities, choosing targets. Jessica Palmer was file number 23. Jessica Palmer had moved to the city 18 months earlier for a marketing job at a tech startup. She was ambitious, hardworking, still adjusting to life away from her hometown. She rented a small one-bedroom apartment in Riverside Gardens, a modest complex popular with young professionals. Jessica suffered from anxiety, not severe, but enough that her doctor had prescribed medication to help her manage work stress and occasional panic attacks. She also took Ambien twice a week when she had trouble sleeping. She filled her prescriptions at Medicare Pharmacy because it was 2 blocks from her apartment. Convenient, easy. She usually went after work around 6:30 or 7 p.m. Marcus Webb had been serving Jessica for over a year. He knew her by name. He always asked how she was doing. He'd made small talk about her job, her move to the city, her adjustment to living alone. Jessica thought he was just being friendly. She had no idea he was gathering information. Marcus knew that Jessica had broken up with her boyfriend, Ryan, 6 weeks earlier. She'd mentioned it casually when picking up her prescription in late January. Marcus had asked if everything was okay. Jessica, still raw from the breakup, had shared more than she intended. She was living alone now. Ryan had moved out. She was struggling with the adjustment. Marcus had made sympathetic sounds. He'd told her it would get better. He'd handed her the prescription bag with a kind smile, and he'd gone home that night and updated her file. Recently single, living alone, vulnerable. On March 9th, 2023, Jessica left work at 6:15 p.m. She drove to Medicare Pharmacy to pick up her monthly refills, anxiety medication, and Ambien. The pharmacy was quiet. Only 2 other customers inside. Marcus was working the counter. He greeted Jessica warmly. "Hey Jessica, how are you doing?" "Good, thanks. Just here to pick up." Marcus pulled her prescriptions from the ready bin. 2 orange bottles in a white paper bag. He scanned them, processed her insurance, and handed them over with a smile. "You're all set. Have a good evening." "Thanks. You too." Security cameras captured Jessica leaving at 6:51 p.m. She walked to her car, got inside, and drove home. She had no idea that Marcus was watching her through the pharmacy window. She had no idea that he'd already decided tonight was the night. Jessica arrived at her apartment at 7:05 p.m. Security footage from Riverside Gardens shows her parking in her assigned spot. She carried her purse and the white pharmacy bag. She walked to Building C, climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, and entered apartment 3B. She was home. She was safe, or so she thought. Jessica made dinner, leftover pasta from the night before. She scrolled through her phone while eating. She texted her best friend Lauren about weekend plans. She posted an Instagram story showing her dinner with the caption, "Thursday night vibes." That Instagram story, posted at 7:42 p.m., would be the last social media activity Jessica Palmer would ever make. At 8:30 p.m., Jessica settled onto her couch to watch Netflix. She was tired. Work had been stressful. She considered taking an Ambien early so she could get a good night's sleep. At 9:15 p.m., she brushed her teeth, changed into pajamas, and took her medications. 1. Ambien. She climbed into bed with her phone. She set her alarm for 6:30 a.m. She plugged her phone into the charger on her nightstand. By 9:45 p.m., the Ambien was taking effect. Jessica felt drowsy, heavy. Her phone slipped from her hand. She was asleep by 10 p.m. At 2:47 a.m., Marcus Webb pulled into the Riverside Gardens parking lot. He'd been waiting, watching. He knew Jessica would be deeply asleep by now. The Ambien would keep her unconscious. She wouldn't hear him coming. Marcus parked 3 spaces away from Jessica's car. He sat in the darkness for 5 minutes, watching the building. No lights on in apartment 3B. No movement anywhere. The complex was silent. He reached into his passenger seat and grabbed a small black backpack. Inside was everything he needed: gloves, duct tape, zip ties, a knife, a flashlight, and a prepaid burner phone. He also had something else: a spare key to apartment 3B. Marcus had made a copy of Jessica's apartment key 3 weeks earlier. It was shockingly easy. Medicare Pharmacy offered a key-cutting service. Customers could bring in keys to be duplicated while they waited for prescriptions. Jessica had used this service once, back in February, making a spare key for her sister who was visiting. Marcus had been working that day. He'd made 2 copies instead of 1. He'd kept the second key for himself. At 2:52 a.m., Marcus exited his vehicle. He wore dark clothes, a black hoodie, gloves, a baseball cap pulled low. He walked casually toward Building C. If anyone saw him, he'd look like a resident coming home late. He climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. The hallway was empty, silent. He approached apartment 3B and inserted the key. It turned smoothly. The lock clicked open. Marcus stepped inside and closed the door behind him. The apartment was dark. Marcus stood in the entryway, letting his eyes adjust. She was sound asleep. He moved quietly through the living room toward the bedroom. His flashlight beam swept across the furniture. Everything was neat, organized. A blanket folded on the couch, dishes drying in the kitchen sink, a half-empty wine glass on the coffee table. Marcus reached the bedroom doorway. Jessica was lying on her side, facing away from the door. Her phone was on the nightstand, screen dark. The orange prescription bottle sat beside it. Marcus watched her for a long moment. His heart was pounding. This was it, the moment he'd been fantasizing about for months. He stepped into the room. The floorboard creaked slightly. Jessica didn't stir. The Ambien had her deep under. Marcus approached the bed. He set down his backpack. He reached inside for the zip ties and duct tape. And then Jessica moved. She rolled onto her back, her arm flopping to the side. Her eyes fluttered, not fully awake, but stirring. The movement, the sound, something had registered in her drugged consciousness. Marcus froze. He needed her to stay asleep. If she woke up and screamed, neighbors might hear. He needed control. He needed her silent. He grabbed the pillow from the other side of the bed. He pressed it over Jessica's face, hard. Jessica's body jerked. Her survival instincts kicked in, even through the ambient haze. Her hands came up, clawing at the pillow. Her legs thrashed. She tried to scream, but the pillow muffled everything. Marcus pressed down with all his weight. He was stronger. She was drugged, disoriented, fighting, blind. She couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, couldn't see her attacker. It took 3 minutes. 3 minutes of Jessica fighting for her life. 3 minutes of Marcus holding that pillow over her face. 3 minutes until her movement slowed, weakened, stopped. When Marcus finally lifted the pillow, Jessica Palmer was dead. Her eyes were open, staring at nothing. Her face was flushed. Petechiae dotted her cheeks from burst blood vessels. Marcus stood over her body, breathing hard. He'd done it. He'd finally done it. The fantasy he'd been nurturing for 2 years had become reality. But now, he had a problem. He had a dead body in an apartment. He needed to make her disappear. Marcus worked quickly. He couldn't leave Jessica's body in the apartment. Someone would find her. The police would investigate. They'd review pharmacy records. They'd question him. He needed to move her, hide her, buy himself time. Marcus went to Jessica's closet and pulled out a large suitcase, the kind used for long trips. He dragged it into the bedroom and laid it on the floor. He wrapped Jessica's body in her bedsheet. Then he struggled to fold her into the suitcase. She was dead weight. Awkward. He had to break rigor mortis to make her fit. The sound of bones cracking echoed in the silent apartment. Finally, he zipped the suitcase closed. He took a moment to look around the bedroom. Blood on the pillow. Disturbed bedding. He couldn't leave it like this. Marcus spent the next hour staging the apartment. He stripped the bed and took the bloody pillow. He stuffed everything into garbage bags. He wiped down surfaces. He made it look like Jessica had simply left, gone somewhere, packed a bag, and departed. He took her phone, her laptop, her purse, anything that could ping a location or show activity. He left her car keys on the counter. Her car would stay in the parking lot, untouched. At 4:35 a.m., security cameras captured a man in a black hoodie pulling a large suitcase through the Riverside Gardens parking lot. His face was obscured. His build matched Marcus Webb's. He loaded the suitcase into the trunk of his vehicle. He drove away. Marcus didn't go home. He drove south on Highway 52 for 40 minutes until he reached a rural area he'd scouted 2 weeks earlier, an abandoned property with a collapsed barn and overgrown fields. He parked on a dirt road hidden from the highway. He dragged the suitcase into the woods. He found a depression in the ground, a natural hollow beneath fallen logs. He dumped Jessica's body there. He didn't bury her. He didn't have tools. He simply covered her with branches and leaves and walked away. Marcus burned the suitcase, the bedding, and Jessica's belongings in a barrel behind his apartment building at 6:30 a.m. He told the neighbor who asked that he was disposing of old paperwork. By 7 a.m., Marcus was showering, getting ready for work. He had a shift at Medicare Pharmacy at 9 a.m. He was calm, collected. He'd gotten away with it. Jessica Palmer didn't show up for work on Friday, March 10th. Her boss, Karen Reynolds, called her phone at 9:15 a.m. It went straight to voicemail. Karen left a message. "Hey Jessica, just checking in. Hope everything's okay. Call me when you get this." By noon, Karen was concerned. Jessica had never missed work without calling. She tried texting. No response. She called again. Voicemail. At 3 p.m., Karen called Jessica's emergency contact, her best friend, Lauren Mitchell. "Have you heard from Jessica today?" Karen asked. "No," Lauren said. "I texted her this morning, but she didn't respond. That's not like her." Lauren tried calling Jessica. Voicemail. She drove to Riverside Gardens and knocked on apartment 3B. No answer. Lauren had a spare key. Jessica had given it to her months ago. She used it to unlock the door and stepped inside. The apartment was quiet, clean. Nothing appeared disturbed. Jessica's car keys were on the counter. Her shoes were by the door. But her phone, her laptop, her purse, all gone. Lauren checked the bedroom. The bed was made. Clothes hung neatly in the closet. But Jessica's suitcase was missing, the large one she used for trips. Lauren felt confused. Had Jessica gone somewhere? But her car was still in the parking lot, and she hadn't mentioned any plans. Lauren called the police at 4:47 p.m. She reported Jessica as missing. A patrol officer came to take a report. The officer noted that Jessica was 26 years old, lived alone, appeared to have packed a suitcase, and left. Her car was in the parking lot. No signs of forced entry. No signs of struggle. No evidence of foul play. Maybe she went somewhere with a friend, the officer suggested. Maybe she needed a break after the breakup. Give it 24 hours. She'll probably turn up. But Lauren knew better. Jessica would never leave without telling someone. She would never miss work. Something was wrong. By Sunday, March 12th, Jessica had been missing for 3 days. Her phone remained off. Her social media accounts showed no activity. Her credit cards hadn't been used. No one had seen or heard from her. Lauren contacted Jessica's parents in her hometown. They were frantic. They drove to the city immediately. They filed an official missing persons report on Monday morning. Detective Sarah Chen caught the case. Chen was a 14-year veteran with the department's missing persons unit. She reviewed the initial report and immediately had concerns. "This doesn't look like a voluntary disappearance," Chen told her partner. "Her car is still here. Her keys are inside. She supposedly packed a suitcase, but took no shoes. Her anxiety medication is still in the apartment. Someone who planned to leave would take their medication." Chen requested security footage from Riverside Gardens. The cameras showed Jessica arriving home on March 9th at 7:05 p.m. They showed no one entering or leaving Building C for the rest of the night, except residents. But at 4:35 a.m. on March 10th, a figure in a black hoodie was captured, pulling a large suitcase through the parking lot. The figure loaded it into a sedan and drove away. The license plate wasn't visible. Chen studied the footage, the suitcase, the build of the person pulling it, the timing, hours after Jessica would have gone to sleep. "Someone took her," Chen said. "Someone who had access to her apartment." Chen interviewed all of Jessica's neighbors. No one had heard anything unusual on the night of March 9th. No screams, no sounds of struggle, nothing. Chen interviewed Jessica's ex-boyfriend, Ryan. He had an alibi. He'd been at work until 11 p.m., then home with his new girlfriend. His phone records confirmed it. Chen interviewed Lauren and Jessica's coworkers. Everyone said the same thing. Jessica was reliable, responsible, not someone who would just disappear. Chen expanded the investigation. She reviewed Jessica's phone records. The last activity was at 9:43 p.m. on March 9th. A text to Lauren confirming weekend plans. After that, nothing. The phone had been turned off or destroyed. Chen requested access to Jessica's apartment. Forensic technicians processed it on March 14th. They used luminol to check for blood. The bedroom showed faint traces. On the pillow, on the carpet near the bed. Someone had cleaned up, but they hadn't gotten everything. DNA analysis confirmed the blood was Jessica Palmer's. Chen now had a crime scene, but she still didn't have a suspect, and she didn't have a body. On March 16th, 1 week after Jessica disappeared, Detective Chen was reviewing Jessica's life, her routines, her habits, her contacts. She noticed that Jessica had filled a prescription at Medicare Pharmacy on the evening of March 9th, hours before she disappeared. Chen visited the pharmacy. She spoke with the manager and requested a list of all employees who had worked on March 9th. Marcus Webb's name was on the list. He'd worked the evening shift from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Chen requested to speak with Marcus. He was working that day. The manager called him to the front. Marcus appeared calm, professional. He greeted Detective Chen politely. "I understand you helped a customer named Jessica Palmer on March 9th, Chen said. "Do you remember her?" Jessica: "Yes, I remember her. Regular customer. She picked up her prescriptions that evening. Is something wrong? She's been reported missing. We're talking to everyone who saw her that day." Marcus looked concerned. "Missing? That's terrible. I hope she's okay. She seemed fine when she left. Did she say anything unusual? Mention any plans?" "No, just the normal small talk. I asked how she was doing. She said she was good. I gave her the prescriptions. That was it." Chen studied Marcus carefully. He seemed genuinely concerned. No nervousness, no tells. "Where were you on the night of March 9th after your shift ended?" "I went home, watched TV, went to bed around 11 p.m. "Can anyone confirm that?" "I live alone, so no. But I can show you my door cam footage if that helps. I have a camera on my apartment door." Chen was impressed. Most people don't volunteer evidence. "That would be helpful. Thank you." Chen left the pharmacy with Marcus Webb's contact information. She requested the door camera footage. Marcus sent it the same day. The footage showed Marcus arriving home at 8:35 p.m. on March 9th. It showed no one leaving his apartment until he left for work the next morning at 8:40 a.m. It appeared Marcus Webb had an alibi, but Detective Chen had one more angle to explore. She requested access to Medicare Pharmacy's customer database, specifically Jessica Palmer's prescription history. What she found made her stomach drop. Jessica's file had been accessed 47 times in the past year, far more than normal. Most of those accesses were from Marcus Webb's employee login. Chen pulled records for other customers. Random selection. They showed normal access patterns, maybe 5 or 6 views per year when filling prescriptions. But Jessica's file, 47 accesses, including 12 times when she wasn't even at the pharmacy. Marcus had been looking at Jessica's information when she wasn't there. He'd been studying her records, her address, her medications, everything. Chen requested a warrant for Marcus Webb's home and vehicle. The warrant was approved on March 18th. At 6 a.m. on March 19th, police executed the search warrant on Marcus Webb's apartment. Marcus was awake, preparing for work. He appeared shocked when officers knocked on his door. "What's this about?" he asked. "We have a warrant to search your residence," Detective Chen said. "Step outside, please." Marcus complied. He stood in the hallway while officers entered his apartment. What they found would seal his fate. On Marcus's laptop, investigators discovered the folder titled Research. Inside were files on 47 women, detailed profiles, addresses, medications, photographs. Jessica Palmer's file was the most extensive. It contained 38 photographs, some from social media, some taken through her apartment window, some taken in the pharmacy. There were notes about her schedule, her breakup, her vulnerability. The file also contained something chilling, a document titled Plan. It outlined how Marcus would gain access to Jessica's apartment, how he would wait until she took her Ambien, how he would subdue her, how he would dispose of her body. It was a murder plan, written out step by step, dated March 3rd, 2023, 6 days before Jessica disappeared. Investigators also found Jessica's phone in Marcus's bedroom drawer, smashed, SIM card removed, but still identifiable by its case and serial number. They found zip ties, duct tape, and gloves, all matching items visible in the pharmacy's security footage from previous weeks. Marcus had been stealing supplies from work. Most damning, they found dirt and plant material in Marcus's car trunk, soil samples, leaf fragments. The forensic lab would later match them to a specific type of soil found in rural areas south of the city. Marcus Webb was arrested at 7:15 a.m. He was read his rights. He requested a lawyer immediately and refused to speak. But the evidence spoke for him. The files, the plan, Jessica's phone, the soil in his trunk. Detective Chen had her suspect. Now she needed to find Jessica Palmer's body. Based on the soil analysis and Marcus's phone records, investigators identified a search area, rural properties along Highway 52, approximately 30 to 50 miles south of the city. On March 22nd, search teams began combing the area. Cadaver dogs, ground-penetrating radar, aerial drones. Over 40 officers and volunteers participated. At 2:35 p.m., a cadaver dog alerted to a location on an abandoned property near mile marker 47, a collapsed barn, overgrown fields, dense woods. Officers entered the woods behind the barn. About 200 feet in, beneath a pile of branches and leaves, they found human remains. The body was partially decomposed. Animals had disturbed it, but the medical examiner confirmed it was Jessica Palmer. Dental records matched. DNA matched. The cause of death was asphyxiation, consistent with suffocation. The pillow Marcus had used had left fibers in Jessica's nose and throat. Jessica Palmer had been dead for 13 days. Her body had been lying in those woods while her family searched desperately for her. While Marcus Webb went to work every day, serving customers, acting normal. The discovery was announced on the evening news. Jessica's parents broke down in tears, relief mixed with unbearable grief. Their daughter was gone. But at least they knew. At least they could bring her home. After his arrest, Marcus Webb sat in the interrogation room for 6 hours. His lawyer advised him not to speak, but detectives tried anyway. "We found Jessica," Detective Chen said. "We found her body. We know you killed her. We have your files. We have your plan. We have her phone in your apartment. It's over, Marcus." Marcus stared at the table, silent. "Why Jessica?" Chen pressed. "Why her? Was it the breakup? Did you think she was vulnerable?" "Nothing. You had files on 46 other women, Marcus. Were you planning to kill them too? Or was Jessica special?" Marcus finally looked up. His eyes were cold, empty. "I want my lawyer." That was all he said. He never confessed. He never explained. He never showed remorse. But investigators didn't need his confession. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus Webb was charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, unlawful disposal of human remains, and 47 counts of identity theft for accessing the women's private medical information. His trial began in November 2023. The prosecution presented the laptop files, the murder plan, Jessica's phone found in his possession, the soil evidence, the security footage, everything. The defense argued that the evidence was circumstantial, that someone else could have killed Jessica, that Marcus's files on the women were just research for a novel he was writing. The jury didn't believe it. They deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts. Marcus Webb was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He showed no emotion when the verdict was read, no reaction when the judge sentenced him. After Marcus's arrest, investigators began contacting the 46 other women whose files were found on his laptop. They needed to warn them. They needed to see if Marcus had targeted anyone else. Of the 46 women, 43 were alive and safe. They were horrified to learn they'd been in Marcus's database. Many had no memory of him. Some vaguely recalled a friendly pharmacy tech. None had suspected anything. But 3 women were missing. 3 women whose files were in Marcus's database had disappeared in the past 2 years. October 2021. Megan Torres, 28, vanished from her apartment. Her case was still unsolved. June 2022. Rachel Kim, 25, disappeared after a night out. Her phone was never found. Her case was still open. December 2022. Amanda Foster, 30, went missing from her home. No signs of forced entry, no signs of struggle. Her case remained a mystery. All 3 women had been customers at Medicare Pharmacy. All 3 had prescriptions for sleep medication. All 3 lived alone. All 3 were in Marcus Webb's files. Investigators reopened all 3 cases. They searched Marcus's property. They analyzed his phone records from those time periods. They looked for connections. They found soil in Marcus's car that matched 3 different locations: rural areas, wooded properties, the same type of area where Jessica had been found. Search teams deployed. For weeks, they combed the areas, and one by one, they found the bodies. Megan Torres was discovered in woods off Highway 52, 10 miles from where Jessica was found. She'd been dead for over a year. Rachel Kim was found on abandoned farmland 35 miles south of the city, dead for 9 months. Amanda Foster was found near a dried creek bed 40 miles away, dead for 3 months. All 3 had died from asphyxiation. All 3 had been dumped in remote locations. All 3 had been victims of Marcus Webb. Jessica Palmer wasn't his first victim. She was his 4th. Marcus Webb had been killing for 2 years, using his position at the pharmacy to identify vulnerable women, accessing their private information, planning their murders, and getting away with it, until Jessica's family refused to give up, until Detective Chen dug deeper, until the evidence finally caught him. Marcus Webb was charged with 3 additional counts of first-degree murder. He pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty. Marcus Webb sits in prison today, serving 4 consecutive life sentences. He's 36 years old. He'll spend the rest of his life behind bars. He'll never hurt another woman. He'll never access another database. He'll never hunt again. But for Jessica Palmer, Megan Torres, Rachel Kim, and Amanda Foster, justice came too late. They're gone. Their families are left with memories and questions and unbearable grief. And every time someone walks into a pharmacy to pick up a prescription, they're trusting that the person behind the counter will protect their privacy, not weaponize it. That's the legacy of Marcus Webb. A reminder that evil can hide anywhere, even behind a friendly smile and a white paper bag with your name on it.